like a bird in the sky. The legend of the electric scooter guy. No gas, no fumes, just a hum in the air. A helmet on crooked, like he doesn't care. With a backpack full of snacks and a gleam in his eye. He's the hero we need, the electric scooter guy.
Gear up, Scooter fam. Today we're going to take a look at the Inmotion V11Y, obviously. But, you know, pretty much my experience so far, how everything's going, my opinion of the wheel at this point, some things that I like, some things that I don't like, what I've learned along the way, and how my progress is going. So I'm going to do a, you know, periodic update on my progress. I'll try to catch you up. If you haven't heard by now, I'll try to catch you up in a little bit, but obviously more details in previous videos. But I'll try my best to keep it going and kind of update you guys as I go on my EUC journey. Once again, I'm not bending scooters at all, but I am going to be trying to mixing in some other content like the EUCs and eventually e-bikes. So we'll see how that goes. Not in a hurry to get to e-bikes. I'm kind of hoping I get to see some in Dallas in November at the Electrify Expo, and maybe I can. That'll help me make up my mind what my first e-bike is going to be. All right, so I just have this up. I'm not going to go over a bunch of stats and stuff like that. Again, we've been over that. I'm showcasing the EUC as I'm talking about it. After I'm done with this, I'll go ahead and we'll watch a little footage. I'll do a little bit more talking, just sort of general chat about whatever, which is typical in my videos. And then going to finish with maybe just a little music, vibing out to some ride footage, so some EUC ride footage. So if you guys are interested in that, feel free to watch to the end. If not, go ahead and when I start turning the music on, you can cut away, or whenever you feel like, if you don't want to watch the chat. In any case, whichever part you want to cut it off, that's how it's going to go today. It's going to kind of talk about my experience so far, and then specifics, like I said, things I like, things I don't like, and then go from there. We'll watch a little footage, chat a little bit more, and then wrap it up with a little music. All right? Hope that sounds good. So far, still going well. I've ridden every day so far, at least 30 minutes or so every day since I've had the EUC, except today. And I took a break today only because I need some more gear. I'll be honest with you guys. I need some more gear. It's not the end of the world. I could have ridden today. There's no question about it. But I decided to give my ankles a rest. And yesterday I was out riding, and I just, went to step off. No big deal. But I just missed a little bit and just nailed my upper ankle. I'm wearing some high top motorcycle shoes, like they're really high top, motorcycle shoes, but they only cover that lower part of the ankle, and this is more of the high ankle. And so just where the pedal comes to is just where it cuts off at. So right above there, I'm still susceptible to these pedal scrapes. And they're pretty tough. I mean, not a big, like I said, it's not like I couldn't have done it. I could have figured something out. But I went ahead and ordered some motorcycle boots that come up a little bit higher and cover the upper ankle as well. And I have the shin guards. I got some new shin guards in. Getting my gear kind of finished out for the EUC style gear and stuff like that. So I'm finishing that. I'm getting that kind of worked out. The kinks worked out in that. And so I was happy with the motorcycle shoes at first, but I just decided to get something a little bit more beefy and go with the motorcycle boots, which protects my upper ankles as well, which has taken the most damage. That's where the pedals are. So even early on when I was practicing in the grass, I was getting pretty banged up on upper ankles, and that lasted a while. And it's got those little spikes on there, and they leave some little indentions in your legs. So not once again, not the end of the world. It never stopped me from practicing or anything like that. Although I'm at a point now where I'm practicing, but I'm riding. So that's sort of where I am in my journey. I spent the first couple of weeks in the parking lot. So first few days I was on the grass, and then for about 2 weeks total time, so another 12 days or so, I was in a parking lot. And then towards the end of that last maybe 5 days or so in the parking lot, I went from driving my EUC up to the parking lot and practicing to actually riding up to the parking lot. So at that point, I was just riding up to the parking lot. After about 2 full weeks, I decided that I needed to venture outside of the parking lot. I had enough skills. I felt like I was turning. I was coming to a stop. I was controlling wobbles. I was ready to face a lot of things that I hadn't faced in like public. Getting out there with traffic, crossing intersections, getting on sidewalks where other people, I have a little bit of space to work with. I hadn't done those things yet, and so I needed to go. Now I practice similar things in the parking lot, like riding down a line, make sure I can stay a straight line, all that stuff. But it's not the same when there's real consequences on the line, as opposed to you just getting, oh, I got a little off the line, instead of, whoops, I fell into traffic. So, there are more consequences in public than an open parking lot, which is why you practice in the open parking lot before going to the public. In any case, so I decided that I wanted to get out and start riding around a little bit more. So I started taking trips. There's one trip that I have a pretty long stretch of sidewalk, nice smooth sidewalk. We'll watch some footage here in a moment. And I can get on there and go practice or whatever, get my time in riding around. It's nice and wide in case someone passes me up. I don't feel crowded over there. There's just a lot of room to work with. It's brand new. They just opened it up completely, so I can go pretty far down there, down the path. Similar to the way that I came back that one time in a previous video. If you guys watched, it was like a bumpy ride on the Nami Klima, and I was heading back and had to take grass for part of it until I was able to get over to this stretch of sidewalk that I'm talking about. But at the time, they were still working on the sidewalk. But now it's all open all the way down, so I wouldn't even have to do that. Now I could take the sidewalk down that whole section there. So that's why I've been riding my EUC, because it's so friendly and so new and big, and like I said, it's a long stretch, probably a mile or so at least, 1 or 2 miles probably total stretch. So it's a nice ride. There's an on queue at the end. Sometimes I go to the on queue, get something just for the trip, and then head on back just to make a nice little fun trip out of riding the EUC. So it doesn't take it's not too bad, not too long, but I get to learn some things, how the EUC works, and I get to practice it on a nice big area that's nice to do that, and kind of get used to stuff, and sort of get my bearings, get my wheels under me, so to speak, and just kind of get used to everything. So that's where I am, and like I said, that's I've done that, and not only that. Now I've gotten out and went to Chipotle over the weekend to get something to eat on my EUC, and that was fun. That's the first time I've been inside a food establishment with my EUC. I've used my scooter a handful of times in different places, drive-throughs and so forth. But this one, I just took my EUC into Chipotle and had some Chipotle, and then left on my EUC and went back, which was fun. Nice long ride, probably 7-8 miles total, I think, is what it turned out to be. Interesting ride though. I didn't know the whole way back on that one, so there was some grass and some other stuff as well. Maybe that's the footage we'll watch and I'll talk through, because that's gonna be playing long enough, and I'll play a song at the end. That'll be fun. Play some music. All right. A few things that I was going to talk about. A couple things that are kind of, not that great so far that I've noticed. One is the trolley handle. On the trolley handle, there's a rubber grip, for your hand that you use when you pull up the trolley handle, and it's just coming off. It's been coming off since the first day I got it. I don't know if this is common, or I don't know if they just didn't put mine on well, or if this is a common thing. Haven't seen a lot of it, but it just comes off. It just slides off, and I keep having to push it back on. And my concern is, it's going to fall off one day, and I'm not going to realize it, and I'm going to be stuck with this trolley handle with a missing rubber grip on it. So yeah, that's a little bit something that I've actually meant to bring up before, but I forgot to bring that up because it's a small thing. I'm probably just going to take some super glue, shoot it down in the handle, and put it back on, and I'm pretty sure we'll be good. It's not, it may make it a little hard, it might not give as much, but if I do it on the inside, it's pretty thick. Hopefully it won't be easy to notice. Had to do the same thing with my Apollo City. On the bottom of the kickstand, it's got this rubber piece, and every time I put it down, that rubber piece will start falling off. It was just a matter of time before that thing fell off completely. So I put a little super glue in it and put it back, and now it's kind of hard, but it's not falling off. So that's good with me. Probably similar thing, except it's not so small. I should be able to get it down in there, and hopefully that will keep it in place. But that's one of the little negative things about the V11Y that I wanted to share. Another thing that I realized is that the mileage is not quite right, and so that was something that it's not the end of the world, but it's a little bit bugs me a little bit. And the reason why is because I like to track my my distance. I do so on my scooters all the time. I know exactly how far something is to get there. I've done it on multiple scooters at this point. Maybe 5 different scooters total. And so maybe more because I tested that other one. But I know how far things are. I know how far how long it takes me as far as distance, time. If I depending on how fast I ride, I kind of have a pretty good grasp of that at this point. And so when my miles started seeming a bit inflated a couple times, I thought there's no way I traveled. So I traveled about 7 to 8 miles. It's probably closer to 8 to be honest. On my trip to Chipotle, and back, and it's calculated in the app on the Inmotion app to be 14 miles, and there's no way that's 14 miles. So I'm not sure why that is. I don't know again if this is common. I haven't seen anything like this. I'm not sure. There's no way that people just kind of blindly believe it. Because it's way off. It's way off. And so it was so easy for me to see that, and it is in miles, it is an imperial system. So it's saying miles and saying that I went 14 miles. I was like, there's no way I went 14 miles. And so that not only affects my my range estimate, because I want to know how many miles I can go on a charge, and if I think I'm going 14 when I'm only going 8, it's going to make it seem like I'm going a lot further than I really am. In fact, it was I was looking and I was losing about a mile. I was losing a 1% of battery per mile, which would give me about 100 miles total battery life. So there's something off about it, and it's definitely off. But aside from that, that's another thing is like, okay, I'm not worried about the range. I can calculate real world range. I know how many trips I take. I know how far they are, so I can still tell you, if I take this trip, that's how long it is, so forth. But because I did that even before I had an app, so I tracked it with the Hover One Journey Max. I didn't have an app. I had to use GPS, so I got used to those same trips again and again. And so I got used to, like I said, knowing how far I have to go. I live in a college town in Oklahoma, so I don't. It doesn't take me. I can go anywhere in town in like 5 miles. So it takes me. I have to kind of go out of the area, out of the town area. It might still be the zip code, but it's no longer in the city. There's nothing from nowhere for me to really go out there. So in any case, it's just like I said, it's definitely overstating the mileage, and so I don't. Like I said, I can estimate that, but the thing I don't know is how many miles I travel on the EUC. So just like the Journey Max, I didn't know how many miles I've traveled on each one. I figured I traveled a lot. I was riding every day. Of course, I was splitting it between two scooters for the most part. I had the first one a couple of weeks, and then I got the second one. But I don't know exactly how many miles I put on those scooters. On all of my scooters now, I know exactly how many miles are on each one, and they're all fairly accurate. But the Inmotion V11Y is just way off, and I don't know what to. I mean, I can estimate. I estimated maybe a 75% error rate. Between 14 and 8 miles. Difference, error, whatever. And so, I can take the total, which now is, I don't remember, 50, 60 miles or something like that. It's only going to be, like 75% of that. So, that is what it is. But like I said, it's just kind of, an extra step I have to take both ways, to calculate the range. There's no point in me calculating the range I would get on this thing right now because I'm not going very fast. I can't go that many places just yet. I'm not comfortable riding in certain situations just yet. I haven't had enough exposure. I could probably do some of these things. I'm not saying I can't do them. I'm just taking it one step at a time. And so I want to make sure there's some places where I have a lot of low-hanging trees, and me standing on an EUC, dodging trees coming at my head is a little bit out of my skill capabilities right now. So I have to stay in pretty open areas. And I can't really get in the street just yet because I'm not really going fast enough to stay with traffic. Haven't quite got to 17 miles an hour. I was locked at 15 miles an hour, and then I was getting up to like 14, and so I decided to go ahead and increase that to 20 because I feel like I was about to cross over. I've never heard any beeps or whatever, but supposedly it's not that loud. So if they did beep at me, I didn't hear it. But plus, I haven't seen it get up that close. So I went ahead and increased it to 20 miles an hour, and I've gotten up to like 16.6 or something. I thought I seen 17 on it one time, but I can't swear to it. So definitely over 16 miles an hour so far. And when I start creeping up to like 18-ish, I'll go ahead and bump it up to like 25 and 5 miles an hour at a time until I can just open it up all the way, or it may happen along the way there but until then, that's kind of what I'm doing. So I want to at least be able to go 20, 25 miles an hour before I go onto the street. I'd like to be able to get to 30 miles an hour before I go down certain streets, but I don't necessarily have to go down those streets. I could probably work with it a little bit if I could get between 20 and 25 miles an hour, but I'm just not there yet. And so as soon as I am, I plan on taking some of the normal trips that I usually take on my scooters on those trips on the EUC. Some things I can't do, and I knew that. Like I said, the EUC is never going to completely replace my scooters, but I am going to try to take similar trips to see how it handles and for little stuff here and there. But yeah, so that's where I'm at as far as that goes. I'm doing pretty, I haven't had any weirdness really happen. Um, riding around, everything's been, I've been able to handle everything. I really, prepared myself pretty well in the parking lot. I'll say at each stage, I felt like I probably went just a tad longer than I really had to, just a little bit longer than I actually had to before going to the next step. And maybe I'm just being careful. But when I was in the grass getting ready to go to the pavement, I probably stayed a day longer than I really should have, or could have. I mean, I don't know if I should have, but I certainly could have moved on earlier without too much of an issue there. But I wanted to make sure, so I went back that last day, and that solidified it for me. In the parking lot, it was just felt like I had did everything. I had done all the drills I could think of doing. I was trying to get my speed up. I only got to like 12 miles an hour or so in the parking lot, but I only have so much room to work with. Even in the parking lot, it just wasn't friendly to just really get going, and it wasn't the place for speed. And so as soon as I got out of the parking lot and started getting on there like the big wide sidewalk, I was hitting like 13, 14 miles an hour, and I had to increase it to 20, and then I've gotten up to like almost 17 miles an hour. If I haven't hit 17, but I'm not certain about that one. So, can't swear to it. In any case, I'll be crossing that 20 mile per hour mark any time now, and I'll try some of the trips that I do feel comfortable with. I'll still probably avoid the sidewalks where I have to duck out of the way. But there's some that I can use. There's a bike lane I'd like to try, but once again, that's a little iffy as well. I've got only a little bit of space there, and being able to ride that space comfortably at that speed with traffic, it's gonna take a little getting used to. But it took me a while on my scooter to get comfortable to do something like that. When I found a good area to do that. And I haven't had too many issues with the scooter at all, so I'm fairly comfortable with the area as far as knowing how to do it. But still, with so little room for error, such a long little stretch right there, and then of course traffic you're having to contend with, I could pull it off. I don't have any doubt that I could pull it off. Just gonna take some time to get comfortable where I feel like okay, I'm pretty much there. So there's that. I did want to talk about one thing cool that I got these free pedals from Inmotion. I didn't get them at first, and I thought I seen something on there. They're not actually doing that deal anymore, but they're $140 regularly if you go buy them, and they're honeycomb pedals, and they sent them for free. So once again, I kind of had to hit them up and say, hey, I thought I was supposed to get some free pedals, and they said, well, they're shipping separately. So I kind of followed up on that a couple times, and they sent them to me, no problem. So very happy with that. Inmotion, thank you. Thumbs up on that one. They're pretty good at responding to me. It took me a few back and forth to get them to send them out, but they were really good about communication. They were like, we're checking into it for you. Just please, we're on top of it, and they were. So, and it didn't take too long overall, at all. It was only a little while after that I said, hey, do I get these, or is that no longer a deal, or what? And they were like, no, you're going to get them. They ship separately, but I couldn't get a confirmation. But when they finally shipped them, boy, they got here like next day. So no complaints whatsoever. I know they have a reputation, but so far so good with me and Inmotion. They've been really responsive, and in the end, they got me my pedals like lickety split. Once they sent them out, I had them. So very happy with that. I don't know yet that I'm going to use them. I don't know. I'll probably use them at some point just to try them out to see what I think. But at the moment, they're kind of small compared to the others. I think these things are removable. Maybe I think these are Allens. You can like replace these little spikes or something if you want. But I think they look cool. I think they look cool. But the other ones are bigger, and they just have more room for your feet. And I don't really have huge feet. And I used to ride my scooters I wear my Adidas Superstar shell toes, and that was pretty good. But I have kind of a small form factor, so they fit kind of well on the deck, scooter decks. One thing I noticed though, since I started wearing these motorcycle shoes, which are a bit more bulky, it's not as easy to squeeze those on the scooter. So and even the Apollo City, when I'm riding them, I have trouble squeezing my feet on the scooter, even keeping them tilted the way I usually do, because I'm not wearing the Adidas shell toe. I don't have the room. I don't have the deck room to put my feet. And like I said, I'm staggering them. I'm putting them like this. But even so, they don't have any room. There's no room for me to move them around. And I usually have a little bit more wiggle room between my feet on those. Even on the Apollo Go and like the Hover One Journey Max, which have a really small deck, I was able to get by without too much issues with the Adidas shell toes. So, I one or two things I got to kind of get a new foot adjustment. I never use the back. I never use that thing. I never use the footrest. I always put my feet squarely on the deck. Of course, once again, stagger with my front foot out to the left a little bit and my rear foot even more so out to the right, kind of like I'm riding a skateboard. And that's how I rode a skateboard. The front foot was almost forward, but just cocked out to the left a little bit, and then the rear foot's almost straight back, but just cocked out a little bit, forward there. So front foot more forward, back foot more sideways, really, to be honest. But just kind of looks, kind of like that. Still utilizing a lot of the deck space, but just kind of having those positioned in that way. My knees bend, it's comfortable. That's how I prefer to ride on the scooters. But maybe because of that, I have to start like putting my heel all the way up on the back footrests. The Go has a nice footrest. I couldn't do that on Journey Max because it's not made for that. And I'm not sure at the Klima that would even be an issue. I don't know if I've ridden the Klima with the motorcycle shoes or not. It has a pretty big deck, but I haven't tried it, so I don't know for sure. There's a lot of room though, so I wouldn't expect it to be, but I won't know until I try for sure. And it's time for me to take another Klima ride. I've been thinking about it more and more. I haven't got to ride the Klima. I've only been using the City and the V11Y as far as my daily, going places and doing stuff. Still using I used the City today. Like I said, I didn't use the V11Y, so I still had wanted to run somewhere, so I just used the City to go do a quick errand. But yeah, super happy about the pedals. In general, super happy about the EUC. I don't have a lot to compare it to, and I'm not trying to, peel out with it or jump, trains on it or anything like that. I'm just, just a commuter learning to ride, and, my experience so far is a good experience. I know some people say don't learn to ride on a scooter, electric unicycle this heavy, and it's harder to hold up, it's harder to balance. Also has suspension, so it's higher off the ground, so it's still harder to balance. I didn't want to get something I was going to have to get, throw away or become disinterested in, a few months later. And some people say, well, just, buy one secondhand, and, that's fine too, but, you really don't know what you're getting. Is it going to be worth your time, or who knows? These things are pretty sturdy, but still, there may be some maintenance that you're going to have to like catch up on or something like that. And, I just wanted to buy a wheel I could grow into and not want to, get rid of it so quickly. And I don't have any idea, any ideas of getting rid of this wheel anytime soon. It's always curious once you kind of start going on a wheel you kind of get used to certain things. It's kind of like the scooters. Like, you want to start looking around, seeing like, well, what do I like about this one, and what would I like about another one, or what would I like to try about this, or so forth. So there's other EUCs I'm looking at now, and I'm learning more about EUCs. I didn't know anything hardly about them. Um, but like I said, for me being being a new person, learning EUCs and um, doing the type of stuff that I do, just commuting, running errands and so forth, I think it's the perfect EUC so far. The suspension, like I said before, is awesome. I hardly notice anything um, that I've done. I went through the grass the first time on my trip, which I'm going to go ahead and get into pretty soon here. But I did go ahead and try out a patch of grass that looked fairly safe to jump on and jump off. Didn't have to dismount or anything. I was just on my path. Like I said, ran into a few grass places that I had to walk through. Some of those I wasn't quite as confident, but there was one little stretch where I just jumped right off the pavement, right onto the grass and back onto the pavement. That was the first time that I've done that. And so that was, I got to get more experience at stuff like that. I got to be able to jump out into the street time to time, just for even if it's just little quick bursts, like I do sometimes with my scooter on in certain areas. So I'm just not comfortable yet doing that, but I'm close. Tight areas are getting better for me, that kind of thing. Let me go ahead and get some ride footage started. So this is a little area here, guys, that I'm having a difficult time conquering. It's a downhill stretch. It's a little sidewalk here. I'm trying to get to the point where I can just pull in and go on down real smooth. But as you can see, it's one of the steeper hills that I go down almost every day that I go out, and it's a real problem on the unicycle so far. I wanna stand up. I try to stand up, but it's difficult to commit considering I have such a steep downhill, and of course there's traffic crossing out in front of me. Not to mention I got a tight right turn down here at the end, so I've got to pull all this off. I'm able to do it right now, but I'm glad you can't really see it, but it's pretty shaky. I've gotten down it a couple times, including this time, and I'm able to move on smoothly around that turn, which is pretty good. But the descent is not as good as it appeared on video. It's very shaky. I'm balancing, my wheels going left and right, and I'm doing a good job. I mean, like I said, I've spending all that time in the grass, making sure I could balance at low speed. It's helped tremendously on some of the tighter spots where I'm not going very fast, and I had to make a tight squeeze in, just like back there on the turn, or going downhill trying to balance without getting momentum. So as soon as I even stand up, going downhill, it slows me down. I guess because the way I'm tilted, the thing is tilted down, and I'm standing up, and so it's difficult for me to get that forward momentum, to get a little bit of speed going, to keep balance. So it's stopping me, and then I'm just not fully comfortable just committing and doing that because of the situation that I'm in, going downhill into traffic with a right tight turn coming at the end that I've got to be prepared for. So I just got to work on that. I got to keep doing it. That's going to come. I've considered if there's no traffic, which it wasn't too bad then, and I saw certain times of the day I'll go out, and if it's not too bad, I'm thinking about taking the street there, that right lane, instead of the sidewalk, because I have more room to work. I think I'd be a lot more comfortable trying to get speed up without worrying about just making a mistake and swerving off or something like that. Just be more comfortable. Now when I get down to the end, I still got to turn. I'm going to turn right into the parking lot. I'm sorry, to the sidewalk, and then go from there. I have been walking at the crosswalks a lot in certain areas, or I was doing it period, because instead of like me, sometimes my mounts aren't perfect. I can get on and off, but I never claim to be perfect. Uh, so, and if I have like an uphill, it's kind of difficult. Like this is slightly uphill. I don't think I messed up this time, but never know. It happens. But so uh, if I don't walk it, I might walk it. I can't recall. But yeah, I walk to sometimes. Like I said, I don't want to hold traffic up while I'm trying to sit here and go on my. I'm looking over to my left, so if that's the case, I mean I do that anyway. But I probably would have started walking. There's cars keep going. I kind of remember this. I'm like, dude, every car gonna keep going. I just didn't want to take a chance. Yeah, so I'm riding, and so I'm able to do this because here I'm gonna be able to keep going straight. Gonna squeeze in here. That's something that was a little nerve-wracking at first, and it still is a little bit. Am I taking a right here? I don't think I am. I'm not sure why I got off right there. Maybe my feet weren't adjusted. I'll tell you, one of the bigger problems that I'm having kind of riding is getting my feet in leg position on the EUC consistent every time. For some reason, I don't have that down yet. I'm noticing that on my rides because sometimes it feels better than others, and sometimes my legs, my feet get fatigued real easily. Not just they get fatigued, but they get fatigued real easily, or my calves start feeling a lot of pressure. Even my quads when start feeling a lot. Almost like I must be hitting different areas. Like I must be a little off. And so where my knees are positioned and where my feet are lined up against, it's got to be more consistent for me to sort of get a more consistent ride. It seems to be better when I can stand up nice and tall and my knees are just barely bent. The more my knees are bent, and the more I'm kind of like having to bend over at the waist a little bit. It seems like the more my legs and feet kind of get fatigued. It's also, I don't feel I have as good control over the EUC. I get more wobbles and that, and I it just doesn't feel as controlled either. Like I don't know how to explain it, but when I stand up tall and my knees are just barely slightly bent, I feel like that. And if I'm on some nice pavement and everything's kind of flowing pretty smooth, that's a pretty nice ride. That's a pretty nice ride. This area here, it's got all these cracks and this little, I don't know what you call this pavement BS, but it's got all these cracks on it that have been like tarred, you put tar over and stuff like that to keep it from, I guess, getting worse. And then there's holes that pop up here all the time. They just had to fill one in up here. On a scooter, it's okay. There's spots in here that are sketchy, but in general, not too bad. On the EUC, it seems like I hit those cracks a lot more, and it kind of throws off my wheel and my balance just a hair. It's nothing to send me flying or anything like that. It's just something that kind of made me have to drop my center of gravity a little bit to overcome. So I'm getting good at that kind of stuff. At feeling little inconsistencies with my wheel and then dropping down, fixing wobbles. That kind of stuff. I'm trying to get better and better at as I get my speed up more and more. And so because when I'm hitting 25-ish miles an hour and I get wobbles, I want to be confident that I can handle them. And so if I handle them a little bit all the way up and get used to getting those speeds up and encountering the wobbles that I get at those speeds and correcting the wobbles at those speeds, then I'll be more and more comfortable to continue pushing that up. This EUC can only go 37 miles an hour, which I don't really plan on hitting. Um, if I did, I would get another EUC because you don't want to play around trying to max these things out. I don't. Maybe some people do. But if I did, I would get something that goes way beyond what I wanted. 37 is probably fine. I don't think I'll ever probably go over 30. I don't plan to. But if for some reason I get the itch to crank it up past 30-ish, once the battery level starts dropping, you don't get 37. You might get 35, you might get 32. So trying to push up to 35, if you got like only a little bit of battery left, is can be questionable, sketchy. So not going to matter now. Like I said, I only go as fast as maybe 16-ish miles an hour. I've done it a few times now. So, and that's here on that, not this particular sidewalk, because this is a little more things to contend with here. I did have to duck a little bit from these trees, but it's not so severe. And because I'm standing up straight, and like I said, I'm not on my scooter. On my scooter, I can get down pretty low. And if I were pretty skilled on the EUC, I could get down pretty low as well. But I almost have to sit down on the EUC, and I'm not quite that good yet. That would be something I would like to try in the future, but you really got to be moving pretty fast on these things, or be really good at it. 20 plus miles an hour is what you're gonna want to get to even start to think about sitting down. So that's about the limit of this EUC before you can really try to do that. So you'll be riding the limits in general to try to start having a seat, and I'll have to see how I feel. I'll probably practice once again. I'm okay with getting my center of gravity low, but that's usually at low speeds. I'm not usually lowering my center of gravity at high speeds, although I don't know if that would, it would probably be a little, just a mental barrier, but I don't think it would be too big of a deal. I don't think it would feel crazy or anything like that. I just think maybe, it had to be a mental barrier that I was having to get over. Yeah, I think my feet were pretty fatigued right there. I try to change the position of my feet, my legs on the EUC, and then like I said, have a little bit better, and it works. Like it's weird because just depending on how I position myself, and if I knew how to do it every time, I would. I've tried a few different things, try to make sure that this foot is. I think it's my left foot. However my left foot comes up in respect to the other foot, it makes all the difference in the world. So sometimes that puts more pressure on this foot. Sometimes it puts more pressure on the left foot. And I know a lot of that's going to come with time. And I know a lot of people ride EUCs with one leg, which is great, and I'm happy for them. But I can't do that yet, and so I need both mine. I do have the one strong enough to handle getting on and getting off. But as far as operating the thing and steering it or trying to increase my speed with one leg, that's not going to happen. I can hold it there and get going. That's about it. Or step off controllably some other time, part of the time. But I'm getting better and better at that too. It's just controlling my stops, and not control my stops, but as far as dismounts, making sure it's completely controlled. A lot of times I'm having to, which is not too big of a deal, but reach down. I'm trying to get away from even having to reach down and grab the EUC. So if I can stop and just put the left foot down and sit there and put it back up, that's what I'm working toward. And right now, I can do that time to time, but I'm not 100% comfortable with that. And too many times I'm still having to reach down and grab. That's it. Not a big deal. It's not getting away from me. I just the dismount isn't so smooth that all I have to do is just bring that other foot down. And so, and like I said, without having to reach down and stabilize the EUC with my hand. So, and some of that's just habit too. So I'm trying to stay in the habit of just dismounting. Like if I come up to the light, just dismounting, What I do right now, what I've been doing is, I'll dismount and I'll hold the EUC and then get going again. I'll push, kind of get ready and push it up. Now I don't grab the thing when I'm trying to put my other foot on. That's a complete newbie thing to do, and you got to break yourself of that pretty quickly, because it just doesn't help you to hold on. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about when I dismount, foot down, foot comes off, and then I'm grabbing the EUC. And then, like I said, at the light, coming up and positioning myself again. If when I get comfortable, I just want to be able to pull up, step down, wait for the light, step up, get going. I don't think I've pulled that off like that quite, just yet. So, I've done those things, but not in that consecutive order. So, working on getting better at that. But I'm taking the trips. I'm accomplishing these things slowly, but surely, and I'm getting more and more confident, passing people up, knowing how to maneuver when I need to, taking some pretty tight turns, as we'll see on my trip here to Chipotle. But I gotta go in a circle, or it's more of a square, whatever it is. It's a round trip, so to speak. But in any case, I'm gonna head up here now. The stretch of sidewalk that I ride down is back there. We passed it up when I crossed that intersection. We make a right and then go down that stretch right there. But I'm heading this way, and so this is actually I'm gonna go to Chipotle, which is to the right up here, and then after that, I'm going to leave Chipotle, go to the right. Instead of coming back, I'm going to go to the right again. And eventually, like I said, after several grass patches and so forth, because I never did this before, it was a new, complete trip for me, that direction. But I kind of knew, that's where we were heading. So I decided to go ahead and continue that way because I knew the home stretch would be that last section. So that's what I did. And so we'll get to see that here, and like this section of sidewalk here, it's like perfect, just like it was at the very beginning. That whole stretch is this, and we'll get to see that. And I'm probably gonna play some music on that stretch to kind of wrap things up once we get over there. But in any case, so I'm getting out, I'm doing my stuff, I'm accomplishing, getting things taken care of, going to Chipotle just for a nice little quick lunch, and then going back on my EUC to the next journey. Like I said, this was over the weekend, so fun little trip. And one of the things I was saying about these pedals is that if I were using my Adidas shell toes, this will probably work great. Like, this looks just about the right size. Just about the right size for my foot to fit on there with the shoe. Once again, the motorcycle shoes are a bit bulky, and the motorcycle boots are going to be even more bulky. So they're going to hang on. They look like stormtrooper boots, the ones I'm getting, except they're black. They have white ones, but I don't have any white stuff to wear, so I just got the black stormtrooper style motorcycle boots. And so I'll show you guys when I get them, hopefully tomorrow. But I'll take a ride and so forth and see how they feel. And I might, once again, I probably will try these out, but I know for sure they're going to hang off. These things they're massive, they're big, and it might still work. But when I put them on top of the others that's already on there, the others are wider and longer. They cut in, they got a cut out, so it's a little different, but still on the heel and the toe of the pedal, it's wider, and of course it stretches out longer. So for the motorcycle boot, I got a feeling that's going to come in handy, having the really large pedals on there that it comes with, as opposed to the nicer, kind of cooler. I like the way these look a lot better and so forth, but I don't know if they're going to I kind of like having a lot of place to put my feet. Uh, and so one way I'm kind of hoping to kind of start dialing this in a little bit, because once again I don't feel like I'm getting my foot placement the same every time. Certainly not correct every time. It seems to be a little bit of a crapshoot. Kind of has like perfect, situations and so forth. And some of that might have to do with my mounting. Some of it might have to do with, like I said, just where I'm placing my feet to start. The right leg. Sometimes I think I'm bending my knee a little too much when I'm starting to get on. I try to straighten it up. Like I said, these are some things that I've tried. Not that everything that I'm doing is working out perfectly, but from time to time it helps. And once I'm on, I'm just not proficient enough to adjust while I'm riding. And so trying to adjust my feet or my legs while riding is just sketchy. I'll lose balance very easily, and I do make small adjustments. I try, but I can tell right away that I'm not going to be able to make any real adjustments. Now I see people riding these things all the time, and they move their legs all around, flapping their legs in the air. Once again, I'm glad, I'm happy that they can do that, but I'm not quite there yet. I still need to feel the thing between my legs very much so when I'm going, and so that's going to take a little time before I'm just my knees are out this wide from the EUC. I don't even know how that works, but I guess it would just go all over the place if I were on there. I've tried it, and one of the things I do that started kind of working out for me a lot better was when I was stepping onto the EUC, putting my right foot, which is my dominant foot, as close to the inside of the EUC as I could. So on the pedal. So when I step on, I'm putting my leg straight up against the right side of the EUC, and then stepping on, and then pushing off and stepping on with the other foot. And I try to do that as controllable as possible. And that's going to take a little time. It's not 100% control. But it's I'm not just I'm not just missing. I'm not getting it on the same exact spot every time. I'm really not. And like I said, I just don't have that much control yet. I can get on, 99% of the time I jump right on like I did right there. And then I'm doing it, again and again at crosswalks and so forth. So I'm getting very comfortable with that. That's something that took me a little while to kind of, I was crossing it every crosswalk, and people are like, this guy's on the EUC and he can't even get on it yet. But a little bit at a time. I'm not really worried about what other people think, obviously. I'm just doing my own thing, as I go. Here's Chipotle coming up. But anyway, so yeah, that's one of the things that I've got to work on. And I've got some plans. To help with that. Hopefully, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, like I said, I'm just going to keep at it and try to practice more and more, pulling my other foot up slowly as well. Another thing I'm probably going to do is I'm going to order some power pads, jump pads. I'm trying to order some from Grizzly. They also have a fairing plate that I can attach these pads to. And so they have one for the V11Y. And so, yeah. All right, so here we are again, leaving Chipotle, and like I said, I'm trying to get these Grizzla power pads, jump pads, and a fairing plate for the V11Y. But I'm having trouble placing the order online for some reason. I think they're in Poland, and it's just not working. My it's not taking my order, and so I'm probably gonna have to work on that a little bit over the next few days or so, and figure that part out. But in the meanwhile, and even once I finally figure that out, it's going to take 2 or 3 weeks for them to get my order ready. So this is not going to be a quick thing. That's why I said I'm probably going to have to, I'm going to be practicing. I'm going to be trying to get better at it. In the meanwhile, I'm trying to get some power pads, not because necessarily that I want to go very fast and I'm going to need to use these power pads. I was trying to see if I could do something here, what I was going to do. It doesn't look, once again, I can't go out on the street there. Not quite comfortable doing that yet. The sidewalk's closed, and there's no option for me to walk through there either. I thought about just walking the EUC through there, and so I didn't. There's too much going on down there, and I'd have to eventually walk down to the street. So I just decided to take another route. Don't know where I'm going right now, but I'm gonna head. Eventually, I'm gonna head to the back, maybe up here on this little sidewalk, walkway here or whatever. So I'm gonna head to the back behind this, and then take a back way, and then come back out again in the front. So I think here we are. This is my spot. In any case, yeah. So I want the Grizzla power pads and jump pads, not because I'm gonna start jumping all over the place, jumping stairs and doing all that, but because I want to be able to feel my feet and legs be more secure in there, as well as if I set them up the way I want, I should be able to get my feet and leg position perfect every time. And at least I can start with the same leg position. I can dial it in to where I want it, because I know what it feels like when it's correct. But it's hard for me to replicate just, on the spot. So if I can get these pads and put them in place and get a feel for what that's like, and start having more control, kind of guiding me to where I need to be, then, that's kind of what I'm hoping. And so I did walk my EUC back here just because I, didn't know, I don't know this area that well, and didn't know what to expect back here. So I decided to walk through this little area, and it was probably a good decision on my part. But here I jump out on the road again. This is easy stuff. There's no cars coming, and yeah, I'm not worried about this. This is not a regular road. It's kind of like a back area road, so not too scary at all. And I don't even think I saw any cars while I was out in this little area. But anyway, I wish I could take all roads like this. This would be perfect. But yeah, so and meanwhile, while I'm waiting on my power pads, like I said, I do want to be able to lean forward. Sometimes when I'm leaning forward, I feel my legs slip a little bit, and it's okay. I'm not leaning forward so much that I'm gonna fall. But it is disconcerting that I'm not as, and I'm not necessarily trying to grip the EUC, but when I'm trying to lean forward a little bit, I think it's very natural for me to grip, to want to hold on to what I'm, something to hold on to. I don't know how you do it otherwise, but anyway, yeah. So when I'm going to lean forward quite a bit to get going up a hill, or I've got a little room and I'm trying to just accelerate a little bit, I feel my legs kind of slipping. Certainly I wear like knee pads. I've got the Liat knee and shin guards now, but I've not got a chance to use them yet. I just got them yesterday, and like I said, I didn't go out today, so I didn't get them in time to take them on my ride yesterday. But in any case, when I get those pads, I think it'll help keep me consistent. But I've got, hopefully, 2 or 3 weeks before I get them, where I'll be doing some riding and practicing and so forth, and trying to get that right on the way. So we'll see how that goes. I don't think it's impossible to get your feet positioned correctly without pads. I just think it makes it a little easier. So I'm going to be working on it from both ends. I'm going to start working on getting it right without pads, and then when I get pads, setting it up so that I can have my positions the same every time. So I want to be able to lock them in there, and when I bring my left leg around, I mean the front one will be easy because it goes in the same spot. I'm placing it there. The second one I've got to bring around and set it inside there, and I could do that. I have enough power in my leg to do that, but I don't look down. Right, I try not to look at the pedal too long to make sure I'm putting my foot on the exact right spot. One of the things I'm having to do more and more now to get better at mounting is not to look down at all. So at first, you're watching your feet to see where you're putting your feet and so forth quite a bit. And I'm more accurate where I put my feet then. But as I'm trying to get away from that, and I was at a point where I was kind of looking down real quick, and as soon as I saw my foot go on, I'm looking up and I'm heading out. But I'm trying to get that to be a lot more smooth. I'm trying to get it to be a lot more smooth when I'm just getting up and going. Eventually I just want to get up and go. And instead of get up, set my foot, do all this, I can do that. I have enough control to handle that. But I'm trying to get more, like I said, smooth, step up and go. Step up and go. Very simple. Or sounds very simple. So that's what I've been working on, and doing that, sometimes my foot doesn't land exactly where I want it to. And because at that point I'm not skilled enough to continue riding and completely lift my other foot up off the pedal, I've got to try to make small adjustments, and it just doesn't work very well. So if I had the pads there, I could just pull in where it's got to go, fit it right in there, and it'll automatically be on the right spot. I'd be going more by feel than I would by looking. It would just be easier to guide in. So right now I'm having to kind of estimate it, and I'm just not, like I said, I'm kind of learning this and getting used to these types of things. So I'm getting by. Obviously I'm getting by, and I'm doing things. So as far as I'm concerned, like I'm riding, I'm riding EUC and successfully. But I've got some things still to dial in. I probably always will, but right now it's it's on the verge of riding it to how I really want to ride it. I'm still not just able to just ride it, without thinking about stuff. I do get there. Like I said, certain times if my foot position is correct and I'm on a nice long stretch, it kind of starts to feel like where I want to be. It kind of starts to feel like, okay, this is what I've been kind of wanting to feel, which is just not thinking too much about what you're doing and just doing it, just letting it come to you and just flowing. And things have to be kind of perfect for me to get there. And so at the moment, I'm trying to be able to repeat that and again and again. And if I'm on the right stretch and I get my right position of my feet, my legs, I can, I get pretty nice. I'm not thinking about turning. I'm not thinking about, wobbles. I'm just moving and I'm just flowing with the concrete, and everything's spectacular. Me being able to, eventually I want to try to, I think we'll see how it goes, but I'm able to control it pretty well when it's going pretty slow. When I'm going pretty slow, and this is what's giving me more and more confidence to like go into parking lots and deal with traffic inside of parking lots and people crossing in front of me, cars coming in front of me, and me having to make quick adjustments and things, being a new rider. And so I'm able to undo like this little kind of pendulum thing, but it's not a full pendulum because I'm still moving forward, but I'm just kind of rocking back and forth. And so it feels pretty good. And it feels pretty good even when I'm going like pretty fast, like when I'm going like 16. I still do it then because I feel control, right? If I'm only going fast to me and I kind of start to brake and I feel the wobbles, you know, it's something I've got to try to correct on the spot. But I'm just gonna make this right turn and we're gonna go down here. I don't feel like dealing with that grass. So I'm gonna want to feel. So when I'm just rocking back and forth, I don't really feel wobbles, and it's because I'm kind of changing the balance constantly. I'm constantly changing the balance of the wheel, and so I kind of got used to kind of rocking back and forth at speed, and even when I slow down, especially when I slow down, because if I've got a tight space to make, and I come to and I start like forward and back, forward and back, forward and back. Even if I'm slowing down, even if I'm speeding up, I'm just kind of rocking, and it keeps my wheel kind of where I like it, just kind of like I said, kind of off and on, off and on. I still carve a little bit too. Don't try to get too fancy with that, but just try to shift my weight a little bit. But I'm really just kind of rocking back and forth on the wheel. And getting a feel for it, and I'm able to do this at a pretty slow speed now. So once again, when I'm pulling into a parking lot, if there's a car in front of me, I'm already kind of rocking back and forth. So I'm able to almost stand there and wait. Like I can almost stand there and wait for them to do what they're gonna do. I can't, and at the last moment, I have to step my foot down, which is controlled at that point. If I've gone slowed it down that much, and that's what I'm trying to get better and better at. But once again, I'm kind of rocking back and forth as I'm coming up closer to a questionable situation, sort of like in a parking lot or at a cross section where people want to have to look or something both ways before continuing on. That's how I'll handle it. Even up here where I'm weaving between like these little poles and I'm crossing over this, and I'll do the same thing there. I'll start, kind of slowing down, but still kind of rocking back and forth. And then once I get past one pole, I'll go ahead and give it a little bit. And then before I get to the other one, I'll back off, and then I'm going again. And then I'm just continuing that same flow of that back and forth kind of flow. And that's just something that kind of came natural after a while. I don't know. It just seemed to come natural with me taking that long stretch and just rocking back and forth on the wheel. And it gives me some confidence on the braking, because I know I can come to a stop pretty quickly if I want to, because I can just feel it, and I can feel it engage. I'm not braking, but I'm just kind of back and forth, slow up, speed down, slow up, just barely, teetering in there, and going and kind of getting that feeling, like I said, just kind of going back and forth, and that's if I get in that zone, where I'm doing that, and I'm not thinking too much, and I'm face forward, and if I'm turning, I'm just kind of like turning like this, and I'm leaning, to my body. If I want to go this way, I just kind of point my body that way. If I want to go this way, I just kind of point my body that way, as opposed to making like leg corrections and trying to lift my feet and so forth. It's just, I just kind of want to feel it. I just kind of want to feel my way through things. And so that's a spot where I'm having to, kind of learn, like I said, to do, and that's what's given me a lot of confidence in smaller spaces. Like I said, even something like, well, I'm about to have to walk. I could have tried this one, but here's the thing about this one is, and I don't like grass. If I'd have been confident enough, I'd have just stayed on the side. I'm just not that confident yet, because it's not that far up here. I could have zoomed up there on a scooter and been been out of the way in no time. But I don't like starting off in the grass. You know, I've banged my ankles up quite a bit, trying to get going on the grass in the scooter. I'm sorry, on the EUC, and I've done it. And I can do it, but it's not worth the pain. so you know, I didn't feel like getting started in the grass to get going here and then trying to work that out. Like I said, could I do it? Sure, I've done it, but it's also not easy, and I end up banging my ankles up quite a bit trying that. Last time I did some of that, I got a pretty nice little hole in my shin from probably one of those spikes in the pedals, because I didn't get going and I went forward. But you see what we weren't communicating. You know, we weren't communicating. My feet came off the pedal or something like that. No big deal. It wasn't the end of the world, but it did suck. And I realized, I know, you know, riding on the grass is hard, and all the practice I did was practice getting on and off, and then practicing a downhill balancing. That's it. That's all I've done on the grass, and it was perfect for getting me ready to go on a parking lot pavement. So this was just not an area I really wanted to try. I could have, maybe I should have, but like I said, I didn't want to tackle that the grass in this particular spot. That would have been a tad tricky there at the end, but this thing's got suspension. I'm pretty sure it would have done just fine as long as I was prepared when it came up. So this shouldn't be too big of a deal to get going here. I'm pretty good at, and like I said, mounting. I got pretty good just getting my feet positioned every time the same way. And a lot of times, like I said, it's giving me issues with my fatigue and my calves, my quads, and sometimes just my feet, depending on how they're positioned. And it kind of depends. Like I said, if they're positioned one way, my left one's a little forward, it seems to bother this, and if it's a little backwards, it seems to, it's just, and my knees aren't exactly where it's positioned correctly, then it puts too much pressure on my quads. Once I had one of my calves was bothering me. It was just, it's not perfect. It's certainly not perfect by any stretch of imagination, and so just things that I've got to dial in and work on. But in general, pretty happy. Here's a little stretch that I'm going to traverse here in a second. So I did this pretty much without thinking. It looked pretty simple, looked pretty easy, so I decided to go for it. And with success. I know dismounts to in the grass, no trouble getting on or off. Everybody, it's kind of a smooth transition here. And I was pretty happy because, going in the grass in a scooter is also sketchy. Something like this, I could try it on a scooter for sure. You hit these little bumps and stuff that you can't see in the grass, and that could really jar you on a scooter. It can jar you on an EUC as well. Well, my feeling is because the tires are a little bigger, along with the suspension. Although you have suspension on scooters too, it is different. It just, it's not as difficult. It's not as jarring. And so that went pretty smooth. I was pretty happy with how that went. Like I said, I have not done a lot of riding in the grass or trying to ride the EUC anywhere but on the pavement, sidewalks, or bike paths. So now there's another area coming up here where I have to walk again, just because it's a little more tricky. It's a little more tricky on this section, and I couldn't see certain spots. It still would be a little tricky. If I were doing this again, I probably would try it. One couple of things about trying these things like off-road and high grass and so forth. I have seen some, and this could be a potential thing right here, but I kind of see a little trail. If I could stay on that little trail, I'll probably be okay. But off to the side, that high grass, I've seen it get caught up in the wheels and throw people off because it stops the wheel. So I don't know if that's enough to do it. It may or may not be, but I've seen a couple of different times people riding their EUCs along and then hitting a patch of grass and then getting caught up in their wheel and tossing them off the wheel because the wheel freezes up because of this high grass getting caught up in it. So I don't, like I said, I don't know if that's enough to do that. If I stayed on this little path right here that seems to be kind of worn down from people taking, it probably would not have been an issue. But there were some things like that I wasn't sure of. I couldn't see all the elevation. This looked like a lot bigger of a dip than it turned out to be from back there. I thought it was a little bit more of a ditch kind of thing over by the fire hydrant, which wasn't as bad. But even then, up here, if I did decide to do this, I'd have to come to a stop in the grass. There's nowhere I can't just continue on. So maybe I could cut over right here and try to hop on, but that's a pretty advanced. And once again, I would be cutting through some pretty high grass right here to get over. So, once again, I could give it a shot, and I might not crash on the way of doing that, but there's no guarantees, and so I'll just have to continue, doing my thing. Like this stuff up here, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't go through something like this. And I don't think it has to be that bad for it to catch your wheel, but I wouldn't even try going through this kind of stuff right here. It's just too hairy. The other stuff was in parts kind of questionable to me, but that stuff is super thick and everything. So here's my my last stretch coming up here to the right. So we're home free pretty much at this point. We're past all the stuff that I'm not familiar with. I wasn't sure how I was gonna go to come up here because I've never went that way before. Like I said, I might be willing to try it again. There are a couple of areas I probably would maybe try differently, since I kind of know. But this is the home stretch. Like I said, it's nothing but nice wide sidewalks from here on out. Nice smooth wide sidewalks, and that's the on cue back there that I go to from time to time. All right, guys, I think I'm gonna get out of here with a little bit of music. So if you enjoyed this content and you found it helpful, please like, share, and subscribe, and happy riding.
I used to flinch at every curve, held my breath for what I swerved. White-knuckled heart afraid to bend, tried to walk it straight till the bitter end. The ground was firm, the pace was slow, but I never felt the pull below, till I rolled with one foot in the breeze and found my balance in the squeeze. Every fall rewrote my name, every scrape became a flame. Didn't know that motion heals till I trusted spinning wheels. Now I lean into the turn, into the doubt. Lean, let the silence drown it out. No cage, no map, no second guess, just me and this one wheel finesse. I don't freeze, I lean. I used to chase a distant line, waiting for the stars to realign. But there's no sign when the timing's right, only rhythm, only flight. Now every tilt becomes a prayer, a moving trust hung in the air. No brakes, no net beneath my ride, just the courage not to hide. Every spin a second chance, every carve a quiet dance. Found the truth beneath the scream. Balance isn't still, it leans. So I lean through the fear, through the flame. Lean like the rush forgot my name. No wires, no weight, no shame to burn. Just forward motion at every turn. I don't fight the fall unseen. I lean. Let the world keep asking why. I don't walk, I roll, I fly. One wheel, one line, one song. Leaning's how I move along. Now I lean into the wind, into the sky. Lean like the doubt can't catch my stride. Not afraid